So to really understand that, we have to look at the process in which it's revealed. Because though we were born with a dream, though we were born and developed a heart's desire through some of the most intense times in our life, and though this gift was given to us at birth, because God knew us before he formed us, he knew us since the foundation of the world, it's revealed to us through the journey of our life. And by looking back at your journey, you'll start to have eyes to see the dream that he placed on your heart, the calling on your life, and the gift that's inside of you. All right, welcome back to another Increase class. I'm Blake Anderson. I'm excited to be here with you tonight. We're diving straight back into week 4 of a series that we've called On Purpose, where we've been diving into the question that's been haunting us all since we started discovering this world, which is, who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? If you're walking this earth, if you're listening to my voice, you've asked yourself that question, and you probably ask yourself that question on a daily basis. It is the question that haunts us all, and maybe the reason that we're here is to figure out who we are and to live that way. I love the Dolly Parton quote. She said, "Find out who you are and do it on purpose." Isn't that what we want? Long for in life, to know why we were here, to really have a confidence in who we were created to be and the plan that God had for us, and to be able to live fearlessly into it, excitedly, energetically, without fear, and with nothing holding us back. I know that's what I've longed for, and I've spent the last 20 years of my life in a just all-out pursuit for it. And along that journey, I've been blessed enough to find my creator, to find myself, and to find out why I was put on this earth. And in so doing, he gave me the grid. He gave me a framework to understand it. And I hope that you will follow us into it. So watch the last 3 classes on purpose. We talked about vision, we talked about calling, and we talked about gift. And really, as we talked about at the end of last class in the short review, those are the 3 components of your purpose. The dream that God has placed on your heart, the vision that he's put on your spirit, this vision and desire for more. We know and we want our life to amount to something, a legacy we might leave behind, things that we know are important to us. And then we couple that dream with the calling on our heart. And really, we're talking about this deep desire of your heart, this specific way that you want to love others as yourself. And what we realize as we dig into it uniquely, the mission that we are on is to try to rescue ourselves, to try to help those that are stuck in the places that we got stuck, that have fallen into the pits that we fell into, that are walking the desert lands that we found our way out of. You're called to you. And you're called in such a deep way that you want to help, not for any income or compensation, but because you have to. You're called in a way that you would get up in the middle of the night to answer the call of someone in need. You're called in a way that you might travel around the world to help someone. You're called in a way that time seems to stand still when you're solving that problem. And it's a problem that you're always solving because it's been written in your heart. It's written in your spiritual DNA. See, the Bible says in Philippians 2:13, "For it is God who works in you both the will and to do for his good pleasure." He puts the will in your heart, and that's the calling he's placed on your life. What we've learned, and tonight will really hopefully illuminate this process, is that you really have one calling, but it's expressed itself in many different ways. It often feels like they're different calls, and maybe there's different causes at different times in your life. Maybe there's different opportunities that feel different, but ultimately, if you feel called to it, it is pulling on that deep core thing in your heart that says, "I have to help." And it's very personal to you. So God gives you a dream. He gives you a will, a desire to want to help, to love others as yourself, to fulfill the second commandment And then he gives you a gift. He gives you a superpower. He gives you a grace, an extreme ability, something that you do better than anyone else, the thing you do best with the least amount of effort, the thing that you love to do, the thing that when you do it, not only does it not feel like work, it feels like life flows into you when you get to do that. It's that thing that when you get to do it, time stands still. It's the thing that makes you feel most fulfilled. And ultimately, it's a gift that you take everywhere you go because the gift is yours and you are the gift. And you don't ever stop using your gift. Now, this gift can be used in unproductive ways and productive ways, but it is still your gift. And it is that unique way that you love, that you bless the world, and where you have the most power to do good and be most fulfilled. Watch last class, but the advice I gave and help to understand this, how it works, is the vision gives you direction of the way you're going. The calling gives you a passion, and the gift gives you fulfillment. The gift gives you fulfillment. We're most fulfilled in life when we are using our gift for a cause greater than ourselves. We're most fulfilled when we get to use our gift. So you need to first look for environments that allow you to use your gift. And then ultimately you're looking to see how it's connected to that personal desire that you have to help. And then trust me, God is leading you and opening doors and creating steps to accomplish your vision. What you have to know is when God gives you a vision, he's not giving you something for you to do. He's only given you a map to show you where he's going to take you, and that you might understand the steps that he's taking you to get you there. And whenever you don't know where you're at, you're able to remember that this is going somewhere and it's going somewhere good. So to really understand that, we have to look at the process in which it's revealed. Because though we were born with a dream, though we were born and developed a heart's desire through some of the most intense times in our life, and though this gift was given to us at birth, because God knew us before he formed us, he knew us since the foundation of the world, it's revealed to us through the journey of our life. And by looking back at your journey, you'll start to have eyes to see the dream that he placed on your heart, the calling on your life, and the gift that's inside of you. But along that journey, we must understand the process of that journey and begin to identify where we are on that journey. And trust me, when you're honest enough to find your place along your journey, it will all start to make sense. And you'll be able to start moving much more quickly towards your destination. So this journey is a journey that we all must take. And it's a journey that will look unique for all of us. It will be tailor-made just for you. But it's a journey that has a very direct blueprint. Everyone must take the same steps, though they will look unique in all of our lives. And we find the blueprint of that journey in the Bible as we look at the journey of the nation of Israel. If you remember the stories of Exodus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, and the nation of Israel found themselves, though they had been a prosperous people, led to the land of Egypt, provided for by one of their own, Joseph, and became a great people living in Egypt, prospering in the land of Goshen. Ultimately, their power became so great and they were enslaved for 400 years. They became slaves in a society that wasn't their own. They had left their homeland to come there for provision and became slaves, unable to go back to where they came from their promised land. But God sent a deliverer in Moses to fulfill his plan, to free them from their bondage, so that he might lead them into their promised land, where they might fully become the nation, the people that he intended them to be. Well, that's our story, and that's your story. God's got great plans for our lives. He has a promised land for you. He has a promised land for me. And he who's begun a good work in you will be faithful to complete it, as the Bible says. He will lead you into that promised land. But there's a process and there's a journey and there's specific places that you must journey through to get there. And it's not for your harm, it's for your good. It's because he's got an intentional plan. He is turning you into the conqueror that it will take to overcome and to enter into your promised land. So let's talk about the wait. It's the thing that probably I wasn't ready to hear when I started on my journey. I remember hearing the call and God awakening me, but just assuming that since I was awakened, that this plan that he promised, that he placed on my heart, that I would immediately step into it. You know, we're taught about Jesus Christ and the wonderful life that he longs to give us. It said that he came that we may have life and have it more abundant. And we say, well, I want that abundant life. But I can't remember whether anyone told me about the journey it would take to actually experience that. I have a feeling that probably they were speaking of it. I wasn't listening because it was a story I didn't want to hear. And all along, I know I was trying to find a workaround, trying to find a trap door. But as Zig Ziglar says, there's no elevator to the top. You've got to take the stairs. So I want to describe to you this journey that you'll find yourself on, because you won't wake up in your promised land. No, it will be a long journey to get there. But I want to describe it for you so that if you find yourself on the journey, it makes sense and you understand what God is up to. Because this journey is the one of becoming, but it's also the one of revealing. Because it's in this journey that you become that person, but it's a part of the becoming that you are revealed to yourself and you really learn who you are, that you might enter into the best years of your life, into your promised land. So as we said in many classes before, that God has to change your inside before he can change your outside. You have to become someone new internally before you can experience something new externally. And what are we longing to experience? Fulfillment. We're longing to come alive, to be powerful people who are fulfilled and know that we have something to offer, because that resonates inside of us. Well, I want to describe this journey to you. And hopefully, as you hear me describe it, you'll begin to identify the steps that you've taken. But then you'll also begin to hear the ones that are still ahead of you. So this whole process, it starts with an ache inside. It starts with an awakening. It starts with a knowing that you were meant for more. When you look around and realize this can't be all that there is, you start to realize that you aren't free, that you're a slave, that you're living in Egypt the way the nation of Israel did. And you wonder, is there more? Surely I was created for more than this. And in that knowing and in that awakening comes a call, comes an invitation that you might follow him, that you might leave this land to which you've known, to go journey to somewhere that you've never been. There's a call to go. And that's the first nervous, unnerving step. When you feel this call to go and you feel this exhilaration, and the go begins to well up in you and you begin to think of something better, but the go doesn't tell you all that's ahead. And there's so much uncertainty with it. But if you're going to reach your promised land, you're going to have to answer that first call, the call to go. So then you make that decision to leave. And you walk away from all that you've known to enter into the great unknown. So for me, I was a husband, I was a business owner, I was a young father to young children, and the call came that I would walk away from this life that I had created for myself, created in my image, for my glory, but that though it revolved around me, I seemed to be a slave to it. And I heard the call to leave this business to follow him. And that was about as unnerving as it could be. The call came multiple times. And the first time I knew that I knew what I was being asked to do. But when I couldn't see where the next step was, I just went right back to what I knew. And a few months later, the voice came back and it called to me again. And I spent the next few months trying to figure out what I would do, but I couldn't find a way until finally everything in my Egypt was drying up and I was getting squeezed down to nothing, the way the Pharaoh did with the nation of Israel. He wouldn't let them go. Instead, he made their life harder and harder and harder. And that was what's happening to me until eventually I answered the call and I made the decision to leave. Now, if you make the decision to leave, once you make that decision, it'll be one of the most exciting things that you ever do in your life, because you know you're going on an adventure. And when you begin to make that decision to leave, you're going to feel and see and experience God come alive in your life like maybe you've never knew before. And he will begin to do amazing things in your life. For us, it looked very similar to the story in Exodus. God made a way for us with signs, miracles, and wonders. He made it so apparent that he was leading us. He was doing things for us that we couldn't do ourselves. I remember when I first said, yes, I will do this, God, I will follow you. I said, I need a sign. Show me a sign that you're with me. And literally 5 minutes later, I checked my mail and I had $1,600 of unexpected money from a hospital visit from 2 years prior show up 5 minutes after I had said, God, I need a sign that you're leading me, because he was leading me out of my business. And for a season of time, he continued to reveal himself with provision after provision after provision. I told the story last night that there was one evening when I started to cook the dinner on Saturday night for my family, and I knew we didn't have much. But I knew God was with me, and I put the skillet on the stove and I put the oil in the skillet and I turned it on. And I knew that it wouldn't be much, but I'd take anything in my refrigerator and I'd put it in the skillet and I would make leftover stir fry. And that would be our dinner for the night. So as my skillet's warming up and the oil is coating the pan, I open the fridge only to find bare shelves. Absolutely nothing. Maybe some little bits of leftover ketchup and mayonnaise bottles. But before I could panic, there was a knock at the door. And at the door was a woman with a box of food this big. Here she had my stir fry. And God continued to prove himself over and over and over again. And it was exciting. And we followed him out there. But when you follow him, I got to let you know, you'll follow him out into a place that you've never been. And before you know it, it'll be too late to turn back. And you'll realize that you're in a dry and barren land, that you are helplessly dependent on him. And his provision is just barely enough. You may be in a place where you start to ask yourself, where is God? Why did he bring me here? This is worse than it was before. I thought Jesus wanted to give me an abundant life. I feel like I'm being punished. And it will last longer than you think it should. You will likely lose your mind. You'll be humbled and most likely humiliated. But eventually, you'll stop fighting and you will surrender. Because you see, God takes you into the barren land to remove you out of Egypt, a land that you're not from, to take you out of that culture and to take that culture out of you so that you're not conformed to that world. Instead, you're transformed into who he's created you to be. And though you might feel like it's the hardest thing you've ever endured, he's not punishing you. He's transforming you. He's changing you into the person that he created you to be. Now, after you stop fighting, you'll eventually surrender. And about the time that you make peace with your new humble environment, as you start to get settled in to a life of little, to a hidden place of lack and of small things, an opportunity will present itself. And when that opportunity presents itself, it will often come with a test. And the test might even feel big enough to have you second guess the opportunity, though it's the opportunity and the invitation that you've been waiting on, probably for years. Almost about the time that you forgot about your dream, there will be an offer for you to step through the door of opportunity, to overcome the test, to enter into your promised land. And I have to tell you that on the other side of that test is your new opportunity. And as you enter in, you're going to have to fight and you're going to have to overcome. You see, there's giants in the land. Yes, there's a land where they're filled with milk and honey. There are cities that you won't have to build, vineyards you don't have to plant, but there will be giants that you will have to overcome and you will have to conquer. Those giants are your fears and they will be personal to you. But this time you must know is different because you're not the same. You're not the same person that you were when you entered into the wilderness. And no, he's made you someone completely new because you are called, because you are gifted. And little do you know, through the wait and through the long journey of the wilderness, you've become empowered as he has great plans for you to go into your promised land and become that man or woman that he put you on this earth to be. So it's a long journey and it's not fun, but it maybe is the most memorable. I look back on my wilderness season and it's the best stories that I have. The stories of how God was with me in the wilderness, the stories of how we suffered, like the season when the water got turned off and I had 2 little kids and we had to take the bucket across the street to fill it up so that we could flush our toilet and wash the babies. And that same season when the electricity got turned off in November around Thanksgiving. In the season when we only had 1 vehicle and I had to ride the bus to work. And it took an hour and a half longer than if I would have been able to drive like I had so been used to. In the season when my life stopped being about me and I started looking around and finding ways to serve. And it was a season when he met me in the hidden places and had those special times with God in the garage doing my own Bible study as he revealed yet a greater plan of where he was taking me. It was a special time, but it was a hard time. And it was a meaningful time because had I not had those years wandering the wilderness, and I'm saying it was years of wandering the wilderness before I was able to come to my River Jordan and cross into my promised land where I still fight today. I needed all that time because what you have to know about the wilderness is there's a purpose. There's a purpose to the wait. You've got to wait. You've got to wait on the Lord and you've got to trust the process that he has you on. But see, the purpose is, let me remind you that you have to change on the inside before you can experience a change on the outside. And what you got to know is this change that you so desperately need to be able to attain this land you so long to enter into, this change will only come through struggle. And it's God's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. And he wants it so bad for you that he's going to do whatever it takes to turn you into the person you need to. And like it or not, that process is going to require struggle. It will be out of his undying commitment to his plan for you that he will lead you into the struggle. Because he loves you, he will lead you into the suffering. Because he longs to exalt you, he will have to humble you, maybe even humiliate you. Not so that you could be broken down and beaten into nothing, but so that you could die to an old way, so that you might come alive to an even better way. And unfortunately, it just takes time to renew our minds, and it takes time to get the Egypt out of us, because he's going to take you out of Egypt, but you can't go into the promised land until the Egypt's been taken out of you. So I want to ask you, where are you now? Where are you now? Where are you on this journey? I don't think there's a more truer thing that I've ever spoken or taught on than this plan, than this process. And something became so confident in who I was when I understood this process. And I found myself on this journey in the wilderness as I realized where I was, but it gave me the confidence to know where he was taking me and that there was a purpose in the suffering, in the humility, in the struggle as I was becoming someone. Are you just waking up now, hearing the call, realizing that you're sick and tired of being sick and tired? Maybe you have left Egypt. Maybe you followed the Holy Spirit out into the wilderness, believing of a promised land, and you're just wandering a desert in search for water. Maybe you find yourself alone, struggling on the backside of a desert, wondering if there's any water in sight. How long will you be here? Have you stopped fighting the process? I know for me, for the first few steps of the process, there's the temptation to want to run back to Egypt, to run back to your old ways that's familiar. But you know you can't. That door is shut, and it won't have what you really are longing for. So have you stopped fighting that process and surrendered? Have you come to a place where you've surrendered? Maybe you've accepted your humility and given up. The unfortunate reality is many people who left Egypt in search of a better land gave up in the wilderness. Oftentimes we have unfortunate systems and principles of religion that are created as a man in search of his promised land gives up and decides to create a doctrine around his defeat, stating that if you go further, that it's not for God and God will never lead you any further. Oftentimes you hear that when someone makes a vow of poverty. God has so much more for you. He hasn't given up on you. Or maybe, just maybe, you're hearing the sound of a river, of moving water, of the Jordan right around the corner, and you know you're coming up on your promised land. I pray that these classes of On Purpose are awakening something inside of you. And you start to have hope, to think that just around the corner might be my door of opportunity. That just around the bend might be the river that I get across into my promised land. That maybe I've come back around to Kadesh Barnea, and it's about to be my time. So I want you to remember that the Bible says in Isaiah 40, verse 31, but they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Wait. Stay in the fight. Stay in the journey. Become who you are meant to become. The greatest increase that a person can experience in their life is when they live their life on purpose. To prosper to the fullest that God has planned for your life, it will only be the result as you become who he created you to be. When you understand and know the vision and the dream that he has for you. When you are motivated by the calling and the desire in your heart, and you know how to use that gift that's inside of you to do something greater than anyone else can do around you. When you know your purpose and you live into it. When you know who you are and you do it on purpose. So here's some questions for you this week. I've been given questions at the end of each class. So if this is your first class, go back and watch the other ones, because these questions are revealing you to you. And it's the journey as you're discovering yourself. And trust me, there's nothing that gives a human being more confidence than to know who you are. So write these down, and they'll be in the description of the YouTube video. So the first part of the assignment is I want you to take the time to write your journey, write your story. Take the time to really remember where you came from and all the different steps along the way, the different seasons. What has been hard? What has been fulfilling about the times in your journey? What have you learned through your struggles? How has your character been forged? Who have you realized that you are, and who have you realized that you're not? And then where on this journey are you? Are you still in Egypt? Maybe you're in the wilderness. Maybe you're coming up on your promised land, and you feel like the door is about to open for you to enter in. Maybe you're standing at a rushing mighty water at flood stage, and God's asking you to get knee deep in, promising to back it up, as he did the nation of Israel. Maybe it's time to have some courage to enter in. Maybe there's a test in front of you that you're hoping and believing will be the door to opportunity. And then finally, I want you to take the time to think about what are some false conclusions that you have made, that you've given yourself permission not to enter in, that you've given yourself permission not to face your giants. You see, when people get afraid to go any further, they will quickly come to a false conclusion, make a doctrine or a pronouncement that gives them permission to not go any further. It's a heartbreaking thing, because no matter how much permission they give themselves to stay stuck, they'll never be fulfilled there. And slowly but surely, their heart will grow sick, because hope deferred makes the heart sick. But when the desire comes, when you enter your promised land, to be filled with trees of life. So what false conclusions have you made that gave yourself permission not to face your giants? Some of you who are listening have been in the wilderness far too long. And then God didn't bring you out into the wilderness just to leave you there. As the old saying says, he didn't take you this far to take you this far. And he didn't take you this far to leave you. It's not his plan and his desire that you stay there. No, he's taking you through the wilderness so that you come out the other side a completely new person. Where are you at on this journey? Who have you become in the process? So take all these questions, continue to ask yourself. And as you answer the questions, hopefully they begin to start describing something. They're starting to form the tapestry of your identity and of your story. And hopefully you begin to start to see it make sense. And there's some clarity and definition coming to you through these experiences. And then join me next week, the final week, power. Because it isn't all for nothing. God is up to something so intentional. He's up to his good pleasure. And he's going to accomplish it through your life. Join me next week.